Good evening. Calling the meeting to order for the Joint Economic Development Organization meeting for September 12th, 2018. If we could start with a roll call.
Commissioner Bueller? Present. Commissioner Cook?
Here.
Commissioner Archer?
Here.
Mayor De La Isla?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Jensen?
Present.
Councilmember Padilla?
Here.
Councilmember Lesser?
Here.
Councilmember Hiller?
Here.
Councilmember Clear?
Here.
Councilmember Ortiz?
I'm here.
Councilmember Emerson?
Here.
Councilmember Mays?
Here.
Councilmember Cone?
Here.
Thank you for everybody for attending. This is a very important meeting. We have a lot to discuss. We have some exciting things to discuss and some very important items to take up to this evening. If we could start with our first item, item number 3.
Item 3, action item, approval of May 9th, 2018 JEDO board meeting minutes and approval of June 18th, 2018 special JEDO board meeting minutes.
These were distributed prior to the meeting. I hope everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes from the May 9th and the June 18th meeting. Thank you, Megan, for preparing those. Is there any motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Motion to approve the minutes by Mayor Del Isla. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Jensen. If we could have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bueller?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Archer?
Aye.
Mayor De La Isla?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser?
Yes.
Our next item.
Item 4, action item, approval of JEDO 2017 financial statements and auditor's report.
Good evening. I'm Betty Greiner. I'm the current treasurer for the JEDO Finance Committee, and I'm here to present the JEDO audit for 2017. I will start with the first important item that the auditors have declared this a clean audit, or otherwise called an unqualified opinion. I will just kind of hit some highlights in the audit. If you go to the statement of net position, there is some cash that is shown there. That cash represents sales tax that was received at the very end of the year that was not able to be distributed until the first part of January. You'll also see receivables from the City of Topeka and Shawnee County. That represents the November and December sales tax that was not received until 2018 because there's a 2-month lag from the time till the time we receive it from the state. You will see that the East Topeka Learning Center project was added as an asset because that is now a JEDO property. You will see liabilities of accounts payable to the city and the county. Those are attributable to the receivables that were listed above for the November and December sales tax. If you go on to the statement of activities on the next page, you will see there were total sales tax contributed for both the city and the county of $16,666,177. Then down under the expenditures, you will see that under economic development, there were expenditures to the city and the county totaling $29,881,385. That total includes the excess money from the 2004 sales tax that was distributed to both of those entities. And that amount totaled $18,216,339. Those are kind of the highlights that I've hit. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Greiner, for those highlights. Are there any questions for Ms. Greiner regarding the audit? Commissioner Archer.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook, and thank you, Betty. In reading the audit report, I always get concerned about internal controls, and we're talking about a lot of money here now. Can we get some assurance of internal controls that because I noticed the statement is our consideration of internal control was for a limited purpose, and this is standard. However, material weaknesses may exist that have not been identified. Are we?
Yes, there's also another report that you as a board should have received that's called Required Communications and Compliance Report. That compliance report addresses those issues. They had no problems, no issues, no difficulties were encountered in dealing with management. It also says, let's see, trying to find the right wording here. Anyway, there was no items identified with any types of problems, whether it be internal controls or material weaknesses or anything of that sort.
Okay, I thought the public needed to know that.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Betty.
Any other questions for Ms. Greiner? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Padilla. And again, if we could have just a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bueller?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Archer?
Aye.
Mayor De La Isla?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser?
Yes.
Thank you very much. If we could have our next item, please.
Item 5, action item, approval of contract for Project Eagle.
This is an exciting moment for us as we talk about an incentive for a local business. Molly, if you could kick us off and tell us about Project Eagle.
Sure. So at our last regularly scheduled meeting, I brought before you a project called Project Eagle that is a company that has chosen Shawnee County to locate a grain commodities exporting business. And so they're here with us tonight, and I just want to remind you what was approved so far. The funding was approved up to a total of $115,600, and that's a combination of incentives for jobs and investment. And so tonight what we have before you is the contract for approval. So the same terms are within the contract, and it's performance-based as all of our contracts are. The incentives will be awarded as they're earned. And I also have the company to welcome to the podium whenever you're ready.
If we could have the company come on up and tell us a little bit about themselves and where they're located and what they're doing.
So I have Chris Haverkamp, and he is the general managing partner, have to get the titles correct, for Global Grain.
Welcome, Mr. Haverkamp.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Chris Haverkamp. I am the General Managing Partner for Global Grain, previously known as Project Eagle, and just want to thank the JEDO team and Go Topeka, for allowing us the opportunity to introduce this new business into Shawnee County. We actually looked in several counties in the state of Kansas and chose Shawnee over several others. Mostly because of its geographic location and also for competing businesses in our area. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time.
Tell us a little bit about where you're located or where the business is.
The business is currently derived out of Silver Lake. My primary company, Paragon Ag Advisors, has been in business for right at 21 years. And this is a new startup for us as we continue to expand in the agricultural space. We have grown in partnerships that we've built internally and organically. But this particular partnership actually pulls in some of our relationships that we've developed internationally, specifically a customer of ours in Canada. We've partnered with his expertise in international grain trade.
Councilman Claire.
How many new position or employees will you have in this business?
Initially, through the startup phase, we're going through the whole planning process because it will have a site that we need to develop, and it's actually going to be a new build. So it'll be about a 3 or 4 man crew initially as we go through the planning phase, but 3 years in, we're looking between 15 and 20 employees.
Thank you.
Other questions? This is great, a new addition to our community, adds more breadth to our experience, and I'm very happy to have you here. There's no other, Councilman Lesser.
No, the only thing I would add was I was not aware of who it was, but I have had business dealings with Mr. Haverkamp, and I'm excited to know that this is who it is because runs a fantastic operation, and I'm assured that this will be successful. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's been exciting. Just if you were familiar with Silver Lake, this was where Paragon is. It was just an empty field not that long ago. in kind of a marshy-looking area, and watching them build it up and build up a new building and enhance the community over at Silver Lake. And I'm sure Commissioner Bueller, you drive by it very often.
Pretty much every day.
And so it's good to see local businesses continue to grow and thrive, and startups from brand new in our community. Do we have a motion to land Project Eagle?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mayor Della Isla, second by Commissioner Bueller. If we could have a vote, please.
Commissioner Bueller?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Archer?
Aye.
Mayor Daley Isla?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser?
Yes.
Very good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
At this time, as is customary to our practice, we're going to take a 5-minute recess to step out, to take a couple of quick photos of with the Project Eagle, and then we will be right back. And so we're going to have a 5-minute recess. Call us back to order from our recess and picture opportunity. If we could have our next item, please.
Item 6, action item, Transportation Initiative.
Barbara, if you want to kind of start us off, tell us a little bit.
Thank you very much. So, you've heard of SOTO Ride to Work before. That's the South Topeka Ride to Work Transportation Initiative. If you refer to page 81 through 84 in your packet, you'll see that that program is a pilot transportation initiative. It's worked to remove transportation barriers to places of employment along the South Topeka corridor. Since the pilot began, and as you can see on the chart, if it shows up, over 5,899 rides have been shared to date. That's as of August the 31st. So of course we've had additional rides in the month of September, but that's the projection there. So what you can also see that is in your packet there on page 84, the success of that Ride to Work program has led to a projected shortfall of the project. And so what we're looking at and talking about this evening is the ability to have an additional 7,800 to complete the project so that it is a full 12-month cycle. You understand a lot of these manufacturers are manufacturers, and they have cyclical shift work. So in order to get a snapshot of what things look like for transportation initiatives in the month of November and in the first half of December, because we started December 15th of 2017, we have to have that complete snapshot. I want to share with you, and this is anecdotal, but we've heard it many times. Susan shared it with me. I've heard it from employers too. We have employees that for the first time in their lives are able to work a full-time job. In the past, they've either been able to do some part-time or multiple different positions, but they can work a full-time job. And not only that, they can say, "You have changed my life." That's really what that is. Of course, when we reach out, they're in the middle of working. So I'm telling you what they've shared tonight. But that's really where we're at. It's not just one person or two people. Out of 5,899 jobs, we've impacted a lot of people's lives to be able to have full-time employment. And one of the things that I find very interesting, and you've seen the SOTO updates in the past, they talk about the percentage of rides that are taken during different times of the day. Roughly 43% of those are times when there, even if there was a bus route, which those of you that have served on JEDO or been on JEDO for a while know, it's cost prohibitive to do a true bus route. The cost is much more exponential than what we're offering when we do this Ride to Work, this ride share through the taxi program. What we're able to see is that they're taking these rides when you wouldn't even have a traditional bus route anyway. They're early morning hours, middle of the night hours, because the way the shift work is too. You look at employers, they're not all 8 to 5, particularly when you're looking at those manufacturers. So shared all that. I know that's a lot of information, but I wanted to make sure you understood that we want to have a complete snapshot for the entire pilot so that we can successfully work with our employers in a phase 2 to look at what the coming year would be in terms of employer involvement and subsidizing that and working and partnering, kind of a three-prong approach that way. So we have to have the full data to be able to assess that properly. So what we're asking and what the action is for $7,800 to complete the pilot for this first year.
Barbara, maybe you or I know Susan Duffy is here, can kind of talk to us a little bit about the project, the SOTO, and I mean, just to make sure that we're all in the public too, that may be watching hearing about this for the first time, because we're still getting the word out. There's still a lot of people that aren't aware of it. But talking about the project, I mean, what all it entails, I mean, how it works, how people can become available to it, and I mean, and I think just either you or Susan maybe kind of talk a little bit about the project.
Yes, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Yes, how it works is it's as simple as picking up the phone and making a reservation for a pickup at your home. The riders find out, if they don't know, that this is not a chauffeured service. There are probably others that are being picked up as well and dropped off. And actually, there are now regular riders who ride together multiple times throughout the week. And a lot of times it's then the ride home as well. So it's both ways. And on a regular basis, one gentleman, Mr. Tyndall, that we have talked to, he's the one who was only part-time because he did not have a permanent transportation solution to get to work, so they could only use him part-time. Now that he is working full-time, he's receiving full-time benefits. The money he's receiving is much more, and he says his life has just really changed. And we have heard that story over and over. I talked to a woman whose daughter rides the bus. She works down south, and she needs a new car. She's been taking the SOTO in lieu of purchasing a new car. So it is as simple as picking up the phone, making a reservation. If there is a no-show, that is up to the cab company. Capital City Taxi is our partner here, and these folks know that they do not want to be banned after so many times, so they're getting very good about canceling the service if they don't need it. But this, that snapshot we need, what we're finding out is there is a rhythm to each company's workforce, and it's throughout an entire year. And so to be able to complete the year would be extremely beneficial in giving us the data that we need to work on our next phase.
I know that the project encompasses the entire city of Topeka, that anybody within the city of Topeka limits is able to call for the service. But are we seeing users coming from one area, or is it spread out through the entire community?
There is, I believe, a predominance that it's more in the, there's probably in the middle and a lot up north and very few in the south. And there's quite a few over in the east side, but it's that middle strip that just goes right across the city from the west to the east boundary.
Okay. And then is there a time that we're seeing it used more than others?
If you look, there is a time, and it is before we are out on the street. From 5 a.m. to through 7 a.m. is a very busy time. Again, starting at 2 p.m. through 6 p.m. Our service does not leave the bus barn until 5:45. So for a lot of those folks, we would not be able to assist them. Plus, there are some of the companies require their employees to be there much earlier than their actual start time. Bimbo Bakery, they must dress in their white wear or whatever it is that they put on. So we have identified that in terms of the major service times provided.
charts do show that our attendance seems to be going up every month, or at least through the months of May. It dipped down a little bit in June and July, but then going back up. Is that what you're seeing as well across the board?
Yes, that's my understanding, that this last month we moved back up. And so perhaps with this last quarter, again, we're not sure what drives the company's need for their help, whether it really is seasonal or it is by holiday. So this is the data that we need, and we are keeping good data so that we can make some informed decisions in the future.
Questions for Ms. Duffy? Deputy Mayor Jensen.
Thank you. Is $7,800 enough to finish the year, given unexpected growth?
We believe it is. In fact, I mean, we're estimating a little bit higher. We have heard, for example, over at Mars, that they've ticked up on the usage. I don't know if that means that they're hiring more. We have not visited with each of the HR. We believe, we've run the numbers several times, and we believe the 7,800 should be sufficient.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, are you in the works, or plans in the works now to continue this next year in some form or another?
Yes, we are looking at something different that involves the company's buy-in. We believe that this is data that we take to them. You had employees show up to work for your shifts. Your employees were there. So please get involved in the process, and that is what we're working on right now.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
There is a motion to approve by Deputy Mayor Jensen. Commissioner Archer?
Yeah, these are very profitable companies. Are they not, how much are they putting into the program?
At this point, they aren't. So that is where we're looking at for next year, that they should.
So next year is contingent on employers contributing and us breaking even, or not subsidizing the program anymore?
We're not there yet to discuss exactly the details, but we believe we have the information to share with them that says, for the little bit that this costs, that perhaps they would want to offer this as some sort of incentive for folks. We're all, you know, they're all looking at the same group of employees to employ and retain. And once you train somebody, you've made quite a bit of investment. So hopefully they will see the benefit and they will want to partner in. As to exactly what that will be, I can't respond at this point.
In order for us to follow, I believe, proper parliamentary procedure, I probably do need to have a second on the motion before we proceed with further discussion. I know Deputy Mayor Jensen made the motion, second made by Councilman Lesser. Further discussion at this point. Councilman Padilla.
Thank you. To follow up in that same area, currently, the companies that benefit from having the employees come on a regular basis, do you know if during the recruiting interview process and hiring process, do they mention the program or offer the program as a benefit?
Yes, they do, and not only that, if the potential employee has a, hey, we'd like to interview you letter in hand, they can make a reservation and ride with us, and a lot of them do. So they're going to the interview on SOTO, and so we have made that and worked with the cab company, and they're accepting that letter for the actual interview as well. Mm-hmm.
Other questions for Councilmember Hill?
I don't want to get ahead of the budget or programming, but next year is coming soon. You and I have talked about the fact that there's been a lot of interest in getting to PTMW, Goodyear, Big Hearts. Any conversations going on with those employers with this data or otherwise?
Well, Barbara just came up next to me, so.
Okay.
That is something that we are working on. We are working on making sure that it's developed properly so that it can be presented to you all as a board, so that it can also be presented to the Go Topeka board in October. So there will be more information to come on that. One other thing I did want to add too, so that you wonder, related to budget. We have additional funds that are available in the workforce and education part of the budget to support this increase due to the legislative outcomes that mandated assessment testing be paid for by the state. So there are workforce and education dollars that are available to support this increase already within our budget for this year.
Other questions? Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you. Susan, how are we marketing Montera? I met a couple coworkers that their car didn't start, and it cost them $40 just to get to Fifth and Van Buren from Montera.
So, as you're aware, the city of Topeka taxpayers pay a mill levy each year, and that comprises about 50% of our budget. We as Topeka Metro do not go out into the county, but I believe that they probably have picked up some folks in Montera and taken them to work. We've got a lot of folks that ride bikes down there and walk, and I do field a lot of calls just wondering, folks from Montera, where is the bus route and I let them know that they are in the county and not in the city, and some of these folks just don't understand that.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Commissioner Cook, I don't know if that's something, this is JEDO money that we ought to look at, because there's a lot of people out there that come to Topeka and work, you know, or downtown and or wherever, and I just think since the JEDO money is paying for that, maybe that's something that we should consider.
I think this is something that we should take up during our budget discussions that'll be coming up in our next meeting as we talk about expansion. How has this program worked? Has this been profitable? I know that one of the main factors in economic development is having reliable employees that are showing up on time every day. And if transportation is that barrier to employment, making sure that we have a good workforce and development of that workforce.
Well, when I look at the hours of Mars and they have to be there by 7, and you look at the hours, surely they're already there dropping people off, so they could pick somebody in the loop and come back, and that would be, you know, more.
I think that's something for us to definitely look at and consider as we move forward with it. And right now, the SOTO is taking employees to Mars, Bimbo, Frito-Lay, Maximus, Target, and Home Depot. Did I get them all?
No, R&R pallet?
And R&R Pallet.
The South Corridor.
All right, South Corridor.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Before we take a public vote, we do have 2 people that are signed up to speak on the Transportation Initiative. The first person is Reverend Ann Flynn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Deacon Ann Flynn, and I serve at Grace Episcopal Cathedral here in Topeka, and I'm here representing Topeka Jump. Topeka Jump. Tonight, we can celebrate the extraordinary success of the investment this board made in South Topeka Ride to Work program, more commonly known as SOTO. The result was nothing short of amazing. We started with just over 100 rides in December, but quickly built to 876 in May, and now we've picked back up to 772 in August. The chart you received tonight shows the number of trips attributable to 7 different employers in South Topeka area. Each one of those rides represents an individual who is able to access a good job with the pay and benefits to match. Each of those rides also means that a company in South Topeka is able to fill a critical position, a position which increases production and allows the company to plan for future expansion. At that increased economic activity helps the entire region and builds the local tax base. I think you can say that this program has been a phenomenal success. The pilot program has proven the need and helped both Topeka Metro and JUMP gather the necessary data to chart the course moving forward. Tonight, I'd like to ask you to consider extending SODO service to a wider area, and also I would like us to consider a way forward for SODO, moving to a self-sustaining model. We see the second phase of SODO, we meaning JUMP, see the second phase of SODO as a continuance of the current model with the addition of employer support and a specialized bus route. A specialized bus route especially designed to meet the peak traffic needs in the South Topeka industrial area. We need to keep in mind that while a $5 taxi ride sounds reasonable, and it is, the cost to an employee in South Topeka industrial area is still $200 a month. And that compares to a $50 Topeka Metro bus pass. So that's significant, even in my budget. Tonight, we heard from Susan Duffy and from Barbara, and our transportation partner in this venture, and we urge you to extend the funding for this year. The need for this has been demonstrated, and our whole community benefits. The people and the businesses need this. We urge Topeka Metro to develop a plan to provide bus service during peak travel time for the businesses identified. We urge JEDO and the businesses that are benefiting from this workforce transportation effort to collaborate in a public and private partnership. And when the version of 2.0 comes before you, we urge each of you to vote yes. Thank you for your support to JEDO and to Shawnee County, and thank you for the continued support of the economic health of all Topekan residents.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dale Kishenberry.
Good evening. I'm representing Apostolic Church of Jesus Christ, a member of JUMP, Topeka JUMP. Members of JEDO, thank you for your work and your commitment to Shawnee County. I know that each of you ran for this office because you wanted to make Shawnee County a better place. The East Topeka Learning Center is a great example of your desire to help this community achieve its full potential. We share that desire and understand that it is not an easy task, that it does not happen overnight. Thank you for your willingness to strive and overcome the city and county challenges. And with that, I have to express my excitement about the booming success of SODO Ride to Work. In 2016, members of Topeka JUMP started talking about their struggles with transportation to work and grocery and medical appointments and church. JUMP focused in on workforce-focused expansion to public transit. The story shared revealed that people settled for poverty wage jobs along the bus lines because they could not get to higher paying jobs like Mars or Goodyear. In 2016, we participated in public comment with Topeka Metro, as we do every year. We participated in the MTPO's public participation as they crafted Future 2040. We even had someone on the steering committee for the plan. Our concerned citizens went through all the public avenues created by government to discuss this concern. In the meantime, we met with Susan Duffy regularly. She is innovative and passionate, and we have full confidence in her coming up with something like SODO, and we had full confidence in her forging a path forward once we get done talking about this pilot. It was a Topeka Proud Day when this body allocated $70,000 for the SODO pilot program last December 2017. This funding was an unprecedented vote to acknowledge workforce-focused transportation as a part of holistic economic development. JEDO granted this funding because you wanted to test the need of public transportation into the county. You have received the SOTO numbers just like us, and I am sure you know that close to 6,000 rides have been given since December 15, 2017. This community needs this program. People have been able to get to work and get living wages because of SOTO. For people like Robert Tyndale, who is now an employee of Mars, this program has been life-changing. In his own words, Christine Salisbury at SMX Staffing for Mars said that, said that SOTO has been a godsend. This is also a quote from R&R Pilot. Half of the employees hired between February and May this year use SOTO. This program is helping people and businesses. A member of our congregation's son relies on SOTO, and he has had a much less stressful work experience because of this program. For this innovative step, we applaud the staff and the members of JEDO who supported this and made it happen. And we urge this body to continue to support SOTO. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other further discussion on this item? With a motion having been made by Deputy Mayor Jensen and second by Councilmember Lesser, we take a roll call vote.
Commissioner Bueller?
Aye.
Commissioner Cook?
Aye.
Commissioner Archer?
No.
Mayor De La Isla?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Jensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Padilla?
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser?
Yes.
It does pass. Our next item.
Item 7, presentation, Go Topeka Quarterly Report.
Good evening, governing body. Thank you so much for your leadership and for being here. Seriously, thank you. It's nice to see all of you here this evening. I'll make a commitment that I'm going to talk kind of fast, and my team will too. We have quite a bit to share, but we're going to try to move through it as quickly as possible. If you'll remember, Molly didn't let me speak last time, so I asked for at least a couple of minutes this evening. Disruptive innovation. That's a term that I've always been very intrigued with, disruptive innovation. The definition is a new way of doing things that disrupts the traditional business methods and practices. A few examples: steam engine versus sail, email versus postal mail, Netflix versus DVDs, Uber versus taxi. You know, I always like to tell the story about the VCR company. You know, when you all remember it. At a time, VCRs were becoming obsolete, and there were some companies that were saying to the VCR salespeople, you need to work harder to sell more VCRs, while other companies were out there creating DVD players. What do you think happened to those companies that were working harder to sell more VCRs? They went out of business. And I will tell you that right now, let's take Uber and taxi, for example. The end result of Uber and taxi is still a ride, right? And the end result of economic development, it's still jobs. Not ready for the slide yet. It's still jobs. So in our effort to compete in economic development, compete with the rest of the world, economic development has changed. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. Really, it's not even the same as 2.5 years ago when I arrived in Topeka, Kansas. But I do realize that our vernacular has changed, okay? And so you're hearing different things out of us now. And I actually wrote down a few words here. Words like Momentum 2022, quality of life, diversity and inclusion, young professionals, Forge, talent attraction, small business incentives, innovation, entrepreneurship, workforce, education, economic equity, promoting a positive image, Washburn Tech East, retail strategy, infrastructure, social determinants of health, minority business development, co-working space, transportation for workers, TSC 3, Procurement and Technical Assistance Center, 712 Innovations, interns, startups, quality of place, inclusion, cradle to career, incubators, venture capital, loan funds, top tank, innovation parks, makerspace, inclusive prosperity, kindergarten readiness, new market tax credits, top city teachers, and I really could go on and on. But I'll tell you, here's the point I wanted to make. What one word is missing from that list? Does anybody have a guess? Cue the slide. Jobs. That's the word that's missing from that list. And actually, this is a picture of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's across the street from the White House. Every time the administration goes out and walks their dogs, this is what they see. Jobs is missing from that list. And I wanted just to remind you that as you hear our vernacular and that as we are going into disruptive innovation, as we're changing the way that we're doing economic development, we're doing it, every single thing we do for one purpose, to increase our economic prosperity and to create jobs. So please keep that in mind, that the end result hasn't changed for economic development. So I would like to turn it over to Molly, and as she comes up, I'll just say I want to applaud the staff. It's been a busy time lately. I'm not going to take anything away from Molly, but I will tell you, her pipeline is full, our pipeline is full. We are seeing an increase in activity, and I just appreciate the fact that sometimes she'll burn the midnight oil to turn in these RFPs. She's actually working on one tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly. Thank you.
A lot of pressure back there to get the slide at the right time. Okay, thank you all. It's been a while since we've talked about the total pipeline, so I just have a chart up here that's pretty simple, just shows existing business, new business, the total projects that we have in the pipeline, and then a breakdown of the recently active, and then the total new jobs from the recently active. And I wanted to bring that out just a little bit because you know, we talk from time to time about upticks and ebbs and flows. For the last 3 months, we've seen 4 or 5 new projects coming in each month, and that's quite a bit. I think that the first year I worked at Go Topeka, we maybe saw 12 to 15 projects a year. So to get that many in 3 months, the economy's turned around. I know you guys are all realizing that in your day jobs and other things. So it's a positive time right now, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot. You know, and I broke it out with total new jobs from the active projects because I think that's more accurate than if we were to show you what's in the full pipeline, especially when you look at new business. So we'll talk about business attraction first. 32 projects in the pipeline. We talked about the uptick. Most of those are in food processing and some in the animal health industry. I'll talk more about that later, but for those of you that don't know, we are situated right in the middle of the animal health corridor, and that is a brand that was coined by the Kansas City Area Development Council. So we're situated right in the middle of that. Being in between 2 universities makes us a great sweet spot for that. We haven't been able to capitalize on much, and so that's just a teaser for later on tonight. Some things that we're working on upcoming for business attraction is an incentive guidelines review. I know you hear us reference when we have incentives up for approval that they meet the guidelines, and those guidelines were adopted a couple of years ago. We are at the point that we think we need to review them. I think for new business attraction, the incentives that we offer are pretty robust. We could look at some flexibility. I think the spot that we have that we need to work on is kind of the middle-sized companies and the companies that are investing, you know, 2 or 3 million, when we're offering them 2,000 per million, that really doesn't do much to their bottom line and doesn't incentivize them to grow here. So we're looking at how to build more of a spectrum of those incentive offerings. And then the board has really started to dig in on some strategy. So we are going to start a multi-part series of strategy sessions with the Go Topeka board, and starting out with new business attraction here pretty soon. So hope to report some findings from that. We're going to do some research from best practices across other communities and the trends that we've seen with the projects that we've received over the past year or so, and how we respond to that and be more innovative and proactive with what we're doing with our new business attraction. Talked a little bit before about more data support. You'll hear from Freddie later on. He's our research manager, and he helps out with looking at the trends and looking at the data that we have around companies that are in growth mode, so that we can be proactive and go straight to those companies instead of waiting for them to put out an RFP for us to respond to. And then collaboration on crossover projects, and a good example of that is those animal health companies, and you'll hear from Katrin later on, and she and I will continue to work together on some projects that would cross over and be kind of innovative industries, but are still a new company, so they would fit within new business attraction per se. Business retention and expansion. So I have a little bit of an announcement. I know you all missed Jackie for a while. She was out on maternity leave. She was back. She has decided to stay at home with her daughter full time, and I know most of you have gotten a message with that info. But we will be able to keep her on board to work on our incentive verifications and that process that we go through with the companies that receive incentives from us. You have also seen Project Jingle recently, and we had hoped to have them before you tonight for a contract approval. They were this close. Just really, it's tied up in legal, just tweaking some verbiage. So hopefully we'll have a contract before you for approval for Project Jingle and announce that company. I don't know if we'll have to do a special meeting for that or if it'll hold off till December. And then there's a number of projects that we're working with that are existing businesses that really just need assistance through the tax abatement process. And they're not requesting incentives from Go Topeka. They just really are interested in the property tax abatement that they can realize here in Shawnee County. Some kind of announcements and upcoming items for existing business expansion. September 26th is the Kansas Financial Services Summit, and this is something that Go Topeka started a couple of years ago in partnership with the Insurance Department and Security Benefit. I think that number of 140 has increased since this slide was created, but the purpose of that event is really to highlight the financial services sector that we have here and bring them together as an opportunity for continuing education and to talk about the issues that they're seeing here and how we can better respond to those. I already discussed the staff adjustments with Jackie. So that's all I have for my section of the quarterly report. And I'm going to kick it over to Kirk Kuda just to kind of switch things up, but it looks like Commissioner Archer might have a question.
Yeah, before you do, Molly, Commissioner Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested, thank you very much, Molly. And I'm interested in the process as much as anybody else, but I'm more interested in results. How many new jobs have we developed in Topeka and Shawnee County so far this year?
This year?
Yes.
I'd have to go back and look. I can tell you that I went and met with Project Morris, which is industrial maintenance, that you guys approved, about a year ago. And we had them slated for 45 new jobs, and they have doubled that. So I know we're at least at 100 just from the incentives that you've approved, but I'll have to get back with you on total numbers.
And I think it's important that we look at things that are in the pipeline and the process and everything else. The bottom line is new jobs, and I think that would be important to tell the public when we have meetings like this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions for Molly? Councilmember Hillard.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly. When you review the incentives, you mentioned in the course of your remarks that some of the prospects wouldn't even be coming to JEDO, they'd be coming straight to the county or straight to the city for tax incentives. Will you be also evaluating those elements that we do directly and giving us some feedback about best practices, if they've changed any?
Sure, I think that's definitely part of the research that we can conduct, and I would be open for other suggestions that you all have on research topics and things that you'd like for us to dig into. But I think that's definitely, we want to look at the full incentive package, not just what Go Topeka offers, but what the community as a whole offers.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Molly? All right.
Okay.
Good evening. Encore performance. For many of you here, some of you have heard this, or I think all of you up here have heard this once, but we have potentially a new audience tonight. My name is Kurt Kuda, and I'm here on behalf of Momentum 2022 tonight. I am the work group chair for our Quality of Place work group, and through several discussions that have taken place within the community, and in this group in particular, I think we all agree that quality of place has now become an integral part of economic development. And as a result of those conversations in May, this group adopted via resolution some criteria to be considered for potential quality of place projects, whereby some of the carryover funds held with JEDO/Go Topeka could potentially be applied. Since that time, at that May meeting, it was suggested that a citizen panel be established to review the application process and eventually get it to this group for final approval. It was then further suggested that the Quality of Place work group staff that panel. And so tonight I'm here to provide, I guess, a timeline on how we can see this thing potentially moving forward, as well as how that's being staffed. So this week on the Go Topeka website, under the Momentum 2022 tab, There's some instructions on how some potential projects could apply for these funds. So that process started this week. The intent is to have a deadline for those applications to be submitted by October 8th. And really, the application is just an overview on how their project fits the criteria that this body adopted via the resolution. From there, the Greater Topeka Partnership staff would review those applications and ensure that those applications meet most, if not all, that criteria. Those that do would then be forwarded on to the panel. The panel will consist of, I have some final commitments now of myself. Well, first of all, back up. The criteria to be on the panel was that we wanted to ensure that there was no conflicts of interest, which gets pretty hard when you have a lot of people involved. Even though we have a pretty good sized work group, we found that there were some conflicts of interest. So some immediate disqualifiers were if they were employees of the city, the county, the government, if they were on staff with any part of the partnership, they'd be disqualified. And other than myself, despite my pleading, any member of the Go Topeka board was also put off. So what we have is 7 remaining members of our committee that will serve. Myself, Joe Ledbetter, local attorney, I think he's here in the audience tonight. Roger Underwood, a retired banker. Angie Wild with the Federal Home Loan Bank. Kathy Clark, who's been a longtime banker in the community. Joyce Reveley, who's with the JUMP. She's a volunteer with the JUMP organization, as well as Steve Schuffelbein, who's retired and with JUMP. The 7 of us will serve on the panel. It is intended that the week of October 22nd, we would take those applications that meet the criteria, review those, interview those folks and those projects, then provide recommendations onto the Go Topeka board with the end result shooting for the December JEDO board meeting to provide those recommendations. And if we're able to accomplish that with that pathway from the initial discussion that took place last December to this next December, that'd be a 12-month time frame to go from kind of an idea to actually having some projects identified and partially funded, which I think would be a wonderful accomplishment for our community. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Questions for Mr. Kuda? Councilmember Hiller.
Kurt, thank you so much for this work. After you presented last night, I got to thinking about it, and did you say that there was going to be some kind of broad publicity to let people in the community know that this was available?
Well, the intent is to get in front of the board of the commissioners, the city council, in this meeting to make sure that's fully communicated within those bodies and make that announcement that way. Again, it's on the Momentum 2022 site. I believe there will be some social media and some other items out there. We're hoping our media friends will help us with this as well. But most certainly we'll provide some publicity for this to drive this. I know through some anecdotal stories from when the resolution was passed in May, there was already people calling the partnership asking how they can apply. So I hope those people come back around now that we have a formal process in place.
And I do too. My concern was, and I talked to Commissioner Cook a little bit today, that if in fact this was intended to be an opportunity for folks community-wide that were not insiders, that were not already involved in Momentum 2022, and I know lots of people are, but even within Momentum 2022, people are still trying to figure out who's on what committee and what's happening, that 3 weeks wasn't enough time for people to come together. If there were an organization, that's not enough time for a board of directors meeting, enough time to your discussion. I looked for it on the website and I couldn't find it, but maybe I need better directions. But if they needed partnerships and to be able to demonstrate even in the letter of intent that they had developed something, either people that have been working on things that don't know about this opportunity or people who didn't, that's a lot of money. I just wasn't sure 3 weeks was enough time. So this is not an action item, Commissioners, so.
Well, and the October 8th application deadline, was this something that was established? I mean, this would have been established by the Quality of Place work group, right?
In tandem with staff, yes.
Yeah. And so I guess, Councilwoman Hiller, your question is October 8th enough time frame, or should we consider having a little bit longer application period for the groups, organizations to be able to submit their application. I know that's what you had communicated to me
Yes.
earlier today. Maybe we would ask the work group to consider, is October 8th adequate time, or should we be looking at maybe something a little bit farther out, whether it is, maybe October the 22nd? That would give it a little bit, again, making sure we cast the net wide enough to be able to get the information out, people to have board meetings and submit the application. Even though it is only a one-page application, it's not a multi-page RFP that sometimes we see with different applications.
I don't think that would be unreasonable. I think the time frame that was put out tried to work within the existing meeting structure for Go Topeka and JEDO to kind of hit that. But most certainly, if there's some concern, and we do want to cast the net, right?
I thought so.
That if there's some flexibility with that, we can certainly work on that.
Thank you. Again, having been on that applicant end from grassroots groups or from nonprofit groups, a few weeks to just know that it's available and to consider, and then you get a calendar month to at least have a board meeting or organize your folks is still a pretty fast turnaround to put a concept together.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Kuda? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Lynn.
This is an exciting time in Topeka, don't you think?
Yes.
We have so much going on, especially as it relates to small business. We have 3 people now focused on small business, and it is so exciting. I am so happy. I don't know if you can tell, but I am. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the incentive program that we started a couple of years ago. It is in full force right now. We have, these numbers are even dated right now. We have about $200,000 that we've already submitted to small business in this incentive program for this year. 61 incentives, and 44 businesses have taken advantage of it. Now, when you talk about the 44 businesses, you have to look a little deeper. And so I asked Mary Ann today to help me find how many new businesses were started out of this incentive program to date, year to date. Now, not through the entire program, but so far, out of that 44 businesses, 24 are very new businesses, and they have impacted us in a tremendous way. 43 of them are full-time, 37 of them are part-time employees that they have. And so, what a wonderful thing for me. We see small business creating jobs with numbers like that. It's a wonderful thing, and so I'm so excited about what is going on. We are looking at just every aspect of small business and things that we're doing. I have a strong pipeline as far as the First Opportunity Fund is concerned. This is the first time I've had a pipeline, so I'm almost in tears because it means to me that businesses are expanding or businesses are being created, and this is the impact that we're making. And so this First Opportunity Fund is helping them get to that next level in a lot of occasions. In our Fast Track New Venture program, we are educating individuals to start a business. In that program, we have about 22 will graduate at the end of the year, but in this latest program, we have 10 businesses. And out of the 10 businesses, we have 6 of them that are already in business. And so what we're doing with them is while they're going through this program, they're saying, we got in business, we knew we wanted to do the business, but we didn't know how to run this business. So can you help us? And so we're taking them through this training program, then we're providing counseling, and then we're providing additional access to capital for these businesses. So it is sort of like the full circle of what a business needs. They need support, they need, a lot of people know they need capital, and then we go and we look for opportunity for them as well. And I'll talk about that when we meet again. And then there are so many things that we're doing as far as outreach is concerned. We're looking at our new campaign called TSC3, Topeka, Shawnee County 3%. I gave you all a little gift. Everybody has it? So we have this little gift, and what it tells us is that there's opportunity for economic impact even in this program. We looked at what was going on throughout the economic development realm, and most of the communities, they had a buy local program. So this is our buy local program. This is a program that helps us kind of look at what is happening in Topeka, speaking to the business community and asking the business community a little bit to shift your spending about 3%. And once you do that, you help us make that economic impact of about $200 million. And you help us improve employment about 1,300 people. So let's think about, as business owners, how we can shift our spending to local, buy local products and services, looking at what we can do to make that economic impact. And that's including small businesses and large companies. So let's take a look at that. And then Small Business Summit, we knew that we needed to do something around, a lot of businesses will come and they say, well, I don't know what to do. I have this need for additional education, and can you all provide us something this specific? And so our Small Business Council got together and they said, let's look at what we think we need as small business owners. This is not Glenda's decision. This is ours as small business. And they told me exactly what they needed. And so the Small Business Summit will be sort of a result of what they came up with. We have a boot camp for individuals that want to start businesses in November. And so we'll be working on that. We'll be holding a women's forum in November as well. It's called Quiet Conversations, things that people don't want to talk about and they need to. And so we'll be talking about that. And then my most exciting, most wonderful time of the year is Shop Local. I like shopping, and I like shopping local. And so this is one of the things that we are really, really excited about. And so stay tuned for the program that we're going to put out this year for Shop Local. And then PTAC is steadily growing. It has about 183 active clients. They are 36 new clients, and they are actually just doing business, getting business as a result of going through our PTAC. Our PTAC has been strong. It's been making sure that it does the outreach in the community. So you see the numbers here. Out of $4 million, 1.4 million came to our community. So Christy has done the math, and she says for every $1 that we invest as JEDO, it generates a direct return on investment of $64, and you cannot beat that. So we're really excited about what's going on, and my colleague is going to come up and talk a little bit about what is going on in her area. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms.
Any
Washington?
questions?
Our Deputy Mayor Jensen.
Yes, sir.
So I will just briefly throw out that both my wife and I have signed our businesses up for this.
Yes, sir.
And all of you and your organizations should be part of this. So I'm counting on you. Don't leave me hanging.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Oh, Councilmember Lester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too have signed mine. I think this is great. And I will bring up, I will say, as we're asking all our small businesses and our consumers to do this, while this report we had was done well by a very nice lady, it's done out of Overland Park. And I found it interesting to be looking at this as I have all these staring at me. So I hope maybe this is the last one we get out of Overland Park.
All right.
So just so you know, the number of people that have signed up for this program is about, about 55 to 60 businesses have already signed up, and the program is only about a month and a half old. So we intend to continue this program. And there's a part 2 that I'll be working on that's called supplier diversity that we'll report to you on later. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you. Any other questions for Glenda? All right. Now.
Thank you so much. Oh, can I? Sir,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I wanted just to tell you that we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month on October the 5th with a group of individuals in the community. We're putting together sort of a mixer so that we can kind of get to know the businesses that we need to embrace around the community. So Hispanic Heritage Month is September 15th through October 15th. So invite you all to join us on the 13th, on the 5th at 713, not 712, 713 Kansas Avenue.
right.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Hi,
Good evening.
I am here to introduce to you a new leader in our community and innovation. My name is Mary Martell. I'm the Director of Research at Stormontville Health. I'm also a member of the Greater Topeka Partnership Innovation Advisory Council. So as such, I had the privilege of being on the selection committee for this position. And I'll say, if that process is an indicator of what's to come, we are primed for some big successes in innovation. Among the candidate pool, it was diverse and formidable, and there were two qualities among the candidates that was really impressive to me. First of all, we had a highly qualified group of individuals from throughout the region apply for this position. Scientists, community leaders, business leaders who have the expertise and experience to do what's required of this position, and also a consistent enthusiasm to do this work in this community. So it was a difficult selection, but one rose to the surface. Katrin Holthaus has decades of experience in biosciences, in project management, in entrepreneurship and innovation, and will bring to this position a wealth of expertise and knowledge. So without further ado, I introduce Katrin Holthaus.
Good evening.
Okay, this. Thank you very much, Mary, for this kind introduction, and very nice to meet everybody. Obviously, I'm thrilled to be part of the Greater Topeka Partnership team. It's been an exciting first 5-6 weeks, I would say. What I hope to bring to the table is my experience as an entrepreneur, and get a little bit of outside perspective, since I'm not from Topeka, to the area. As you all know, I'm charged with making Topeka more competitive by enhancing the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And so, should do this. That means to me that we are going to formulate a value proposition that is relevant to entrepreneurs that want to create startups, or to entrepreneurs and business people that want to grow companies that have high potential to create jobs and to have a big impact on the community. And so what we're doing right now is we're looking at different models of entrepreneurial ecosystems, models like in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Lincoln, Nebraska, Denver. There's a lot of different ecosystems out there. Not all of them are going to be applicable to us. So what we're doing is we look at what kind of success factors they had and how they could apply to Topeka, and formulate a strategy to go forward. My initial goals are engaging stakeholders in the community, meet the community, engage the entrepreneurial community in Topeka and Shawnee County, but also in the region. Alignment of goals from my team with the GTP goals, and also the Greater Momentum 2022 goals. Formulate short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals and objectives so we can create successes along the way, short-term successes and medium-term and long-term successes. I would like to make sure that we have those along the way early on. And I'm very fortunate that I have an advisory board that is being created that has really excellent experience and business acumen in it. So I have advisors in the advisory board from companies like Security Benefit, from Hills Pet Food, I'm sorry, from Fulcrum Global Capital, KBS Constructors, Westar Energy, and of course Stormont Vail. We're also speaking to a senior leader at Advisors Excel. So I don't think I can ask for a better board of advisors that supports me. As you know, the stool of economic development has 3 legs: business attraction, retention, and expansion, workforce development, and the 3rd leg is entrepreneurship. I'm partial, of course. I think entrepreneurship is the most important one. And so I'm thrilled with the opportunity to actually bring it to the forefront for the community, for Topeka and for Shawnee County. 712 Innovations. Let me give you a little bit of a snapshot of what 712 Innovation has accomplished for the community in the last quarter. As you see, we have 20 makerspace entrepreneurs, 42 co-workspace entrepreneurs, and 46 pre-incubation businesses that take advantage of the services that 712 Innovation provides. We have our little top city prints from the 3D printer from the makerspace that are traveling around the world, I'm being told, which is great. We have published our entrepreneurship guide, which you probably have a copy of. If not, we have them. It was a collaboration of 64 organizations, which also shows that there's a lot of resources available to the entrepreneur in Topeka and Shawnee County, but they need to be bundled and made accessible. And the entrepreneur needs to spend time on building their business, not running around and trying to find the information that's out there available. So Karen Christillis and her team has done a great job with putting this together. There's 5,000 copies being distributed in Topeka and in Greater Topeka. There's an electronic version available online, so it's readily available, and we're very proud of it. Got the clicker. And upcoming events that are always important for us to touch base and reach out to the community and make those connections that entrepreneurs and innovators need to be successful. So upcoming in November is the Global Entrepreneurship Week and the Techstars Startup Weekend. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Questions for Catherine Holthaus? Thank you for
very
joining
much.
us, and thank you. Good. I mean, just got here and already involved deeply, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, hello, guys. So I thought I was going to speak a little bit earlier, but that's okay. So Ty Heisen, Chair of Forge here for 2018. I'll cover 2 things. Number 1, overview of Forge, the attraction and retention of young talent, and then, of course, top city interns. Okay, so when summer starts, that's when the internship starts for college-age young talent. Okay, so first off, Forge right now, developing homegrown talent is really what we're focused on. That's just one of our pipelines here. Number 1, about 2,000 members. Okay, so since our rebranding, wow, she's, look at her. Since our rebranding.
I can take her from you.
So since our rebranding, Forge we're busting at the seams, okay? We're about 125% increase since our rebranding, okay? So we're busy. We have events year to date, 47. Members attended our events year to date, about 1,200, right? So there's lots of young talent out there, okay, for this city. Our job is to go find them and keep them in the city, right? Keep them in the city. And so, is that right? All right, cool. And so, top city interns right now, so we had 184 interns, all right, from 23 states, 3 countries, and then 44 universities representing 20 companies within our area. So 20 companies Really thought very highly of our interns coming in. And a lot of these interns are brand new to the city, right? And so our city is changing in a way, right? We have the heartbeat of the city, which you can feel, you can see it, and you can hear it, right? So it's really unique of how we look at it. And so this is the second year of Top City Interns. We're getting ready to go into our third year, and that's really all I had for you. And so Neela's up and ready to go, and looking at why I'm up here and everything else. And so what are your questions about, Forge, Top City Interns? All right.
I'm just impressed by the baby. That's one of the best babies.
Right now. Right now. Good stuff. All right. Thank you much.
Thank you for all of the information.
I can't top that. There's no way. We go back to being dry after that. Although I can flip it up a little bit and let you know that Neela, is that right? Ty's daughter also was one of the attendees at our Top City Teachers event. So we had the opportunity, and she was glittery that night. She had sparkles on. It was gorgeous because she'd had face painting up in Noto. So I'm kind of kicking it backwards. But what I wanted to share with you, and I know you've heard it before, because we've talked about transportation as a barrier to workforce, better known as transportation as a barrier to jobs, like Matt talked about. We're talking about jobs when we talk about all these things when it relates to workforce and education. Over 234 bus passes since inception for that career readiness program at TRM have been used to be able to get people to either interviews for jobs or those jobs. And just in the first 2 quarters, we've had 43 this year. So we're continuing to make a difference in those residents as they are at the rescue mission and they go through that career readiness program to get them back out, get them rehabilitated, get them into the workforce, get them the jobs that they need. When we look at included, Matt touched on this a little bit, but we have so much information and I really want to share with you about this. It's a very exciting time. Included leadership team had the opportunity to go down in August to meet with Mosaic's leadership team in Tulsa. And when we did that, we were able to look at their strategies, discuss brainstorming sessions and the intentionality and authenticity that is needed to create a safe space for Included as our community's diversity business council. Included's vision remains to be that catalyst to build a diverse and inclusive business culture in Topeka and Shawnee County. And most recently, we just had the opportunity to hear from Dean Carla Pratt, who is Washburn University School of Law Dean. She came to us as a noted expert in legal education equity from Penn State's Dickinson School of Law. She served as their Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion. We are so blessed in what we're doing in the workplace, in education with diversity, equity, and inclusion. She gave us the opportunity, she challenged us to embrace conscious and unconscious bias and realize the importance of diversity in our businesses. Embracing different people brings different perspectives, and it's a necessary tool to ensure unbiased decision making so diversity becomes a mechanism to improve outcomes in our workplaces for those jobs that we have. We're excited to embark on these critical conversations as Included moves forward. And I wanted to share with you about that because we're able to promote economic and inclusive prosperity through diversity, equity, and inclusion with Included. And lastly, I mentioned Top City Teachers earlier. We had the opportunity to have a great fall programming lineup. Initially, as we kicked off the event, we had up to 80 either new teachers or what do I want to say? Student teachers that were participating in that program. We had a kickoff in Noto where we did a welcome reception for them. We also had them hear from the mayor and had them here to welcome them to the community and to their profession, hear from Matt as well as Kayla Bittler related to Momentum 2022 so they could see how they could get plugged into the community. They had the opportunity to hear from Ty with Forge so that they knew kind of what was out there for them as potentially young professionals or young families. And so we've had a lot going on. We're gonna have our last event for Top City Teachers next week. They'll have a parent interactions panel so that they can learn about how they can have better outcomes with their parent-teacher conferences in October. So it's a timely session for that. I know that's a lot of information, and I'm going to kick it off. As Glenda mentioned, we've got 3 people that are working in entrepreneurship. We now have and have had organizations between Forge, Together Topeka, and then Workforce and Education with Go Topeka. We have 3 different entities that are working on workforce and jobs, and so that's very exciting. And I'm going to introduce, well, I won't introduce, but I'll pass it off to Diane Pavlik, if there's not any questions.
Any questions for Barbara? Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. I think I've met several of you as I've been introduced as a new member of the Topeka, Shawnee County community. It's been exciting to start a new chapter in our lives as my husband and I relocated for jobs in Topeka. And my job would be one of those newly created positions. So, to that end, Together Topeka, for those of you who don't know, is basically an outcome of the Momentum 2022 agenda to develop, align the talent pipeline, cradle through career. In our goals of developing homegrown talent, we're including ensuring that all children are ready for kindergarten. We want to prepare students for college and careers, and expand continuing education opportunities for adults. During my first 90 days on the job, I've been taking inventory of best practices, looking for ways to develop new strategies to build on the successful and best practices that are in place, and to meet those objectives of Momentum 2022. On October 25th, we are going to have a strategic planning session coordinated by an organization called Strive Together. They are working with us to duplicate the success they've had in 70 other communities throughout the country like ours. So if there are no questions, I'll pass it on to Freddie.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Freddie Maugen. I conduct economic research for Go Topeka and the partnership as a whole. I don't have a lot of time, so I would like to go through these slides quite quickly. As a way to educate the staff, we, in economic variables and indicators, we publish an internal community profile with relative information about the county. So that information can vary from like cost of living, income, housing, etc. So I would like to go through just a few slides with you. This is some information that we provide to the staff and to businesses as a whole. So the first one is unemployment rate in Shawnee County, showing unemployment rate from 2001 to 2018, with a labor force indicator showing when labor forces drop below a set thresholds that we have. Right next to it, we have average annual wages for all the workers in the county. As of the second quarter of 18, our wages were $44,321, which represent about 0.7% increase since last quarter, and 1% increase since last year at the same time. Kansas grew about 0.72% since last quarter, and the U.S. 1.22%. Since we don't have time, let's jump to, okay, so this one, we also try GDP, local GDP. So in this case, we try to estimate the county level GDP in both current dollar values as well as adjusted for inflation. So what we see in this chart is that although the nominal GDP has grown over time at a moderate rate, the real GDP accounting for inflation, it's a little bit more flat. So it's not growing as fast as we would like to. Another thing that we try to estimate is the population growth in the next decade. So although the population in the county is expected to grow, that rate is, once again, some quite moderate to minimal. So the next slide, these slides, whoops. All right, so this one, it's a different topic that we were trying to identify jobs potential occupations that could have either a surplus or a shortage in the next few years. So this is for 3 years. So from left to right, we have here is the top 5 major grouping occupations. So the federal government classify every job in between of 867 detailed occupations. Those occupations are then grouped into these 23 major groupings. So this is just looking at those major groupings. So this is the top 5. From left, you have the names, the current level of employment as of 2018 second quarter, the projected employment level in the next 10 years, and the current average wages. The potential gap is that potential, that possible shortage in the market, holding everything else constant. So looking at the current level of employment, how those industries will grow over time, our current population growth, and our educational attainment, if everything remains the same, that we can potentially see a shortage in those that occupation gap. I'm sorry. So what I'm not saying here is that we will have 198 nurses and healthcare practitioner occupations vacant in our current hospitals and clinics. But what I'm saying is that we expect to have a potential gap in the next 3 years if all those variables that I described to you remain the same. So that potential gap can change in several ways. So one, those employers can recruit employees from longer distances. Those wages can go up, or the increase in demand and the change in prices can appeal local residents to try to enter those occupations in those markets by obtaining the appropriate certificates and education. So once again, we're not saying that there will be 198 vacancies in those jobs. We're just saying that potentially there could be a gap between employers looking to fill up those positions and the amount of people that can qualify for those positions. So this is looking at the future. This is looking at 3 years. So we wanted to identify what was happening right now. So this shows the active online job ads in the county. So there were 360 ads that are active for these major grouping, which represents about 10% of all the job ads. So as of the beginning of the month, we identified close to 3,400 jobs ads that were relevant to the county. So based on that, we can say that currently there is a little bit of difficulties maybe fulfilling certain positions. So the next one just shows the top 10 certificates and skills that those jobs, that those online ads require. So once again, we see that in the medical field, there's a lot of certificates needed. So there's high demand for those. And in terms of skills, communication and customer service are in the lead. So once again, this is just a pretty broad sense for time constraint. Just as an additional piece of information, in 2018, our total jobs were 95,245. And as of March, our jobs were 92,324. So that's about 1,000 new jobs in the last 3 months. That's at an increase of about 1.13%. So to try and answer your question, if you have any questions about these, please, we can discuss it in more detail. But at this time, I think that these will conclude my presentation.
Freddie, I think that, with most of us, or over half of us that have children or grandchildren that are in high school or college at this time, this is information that we should be getting out to the high schools in Shawnee County that are looking at, I know the mayor and I both have girls that are 15 and 16 years old and thinking about their future careers and maybe guiding them in the direction of where the jobs are. And Commissioner Bueller's daughter just started in college. This would be good information.
Definitely.
Mayor?
So, Freddie, my question to you is, first of all, thank you for this great information, the number geek talking here. But I know that most of the things that we see here are being provided by Washburn or Washburn Tech, but are we working with them to ensure, because there's some that I know that we're not providing education and certificates in.
Right, so in this chart, I did consider the amount of degrees that are given by all the institutions that provide that information. I did notice that there's some occupations that we provide enough or an adequate amount of certificates yearly to reduce that gap. But like you say, yes, there are some degrees that we just don't provide, which is the level of education needed for those specific occupations. But once again, the chart that I showed you, just to try to simplify that because that list could get into the 800 different jobs. It was just to reduce it so you can at least see the top 5. But within each occupation, major grouping, there can be a ton of different jobs that I can be part of that occupation. So in healthcare practitioners, you will have a nurse, you will have doctors, you will have people that support those jobs. So it's a simplified version of just to make the chart a little more easy to view. But yeah.
Other questions for Freddie? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. As you will recall, the objectives within the Momentum 2022 strategy are divided into 7 different work groups and 1 council. I'll remind you that each one of those work groups and that council all have a designated staff person that works sort of most intimately with that group. Because you've heard from most of those folks tonight, I'm thinking that I'm going to go ahead and suspend each one of those work group reports unless anybody has any specific questions or would prefer that I go through each of those. I would be happy to do so. While you think about that for just a moment, I do want to tell you something that I am pretty excited about. So our metrics. So Freddie works really, really hard to research all of our metrics, and we've shared with you before the Momentum 2022 scorecard. What we are working on now is a platform to get that scorecard online. Not only will it be online, but it will be interactive once it's online. So the really cool thing about that is you'll be able to take sort of a deep dive, if you will, into those metrics. So as you look at, for instance, talent development, as you look at the graduation rate, you'll be able to click and research into that. What is the graduation rate among different school districts? What is it divided into different zip codes? What is it divided into different city council districts? What about race, gender, socioeconomic status? All of that sort of research, we'll have those sort of filtering options for those metrics, and we're really excited about the possibilities that exist with that. And so that's something that's in the works now, and you'll hear more about that soon. Are there any questions or any specific work groups or anything Momentum 2022 related you'd like to hear more about tonight?
Anything from Kayla? All right.
All right, thank you.
And that concludes our super long report.
Deputy Mayor Jensen.
Matt, you gotta wait for I ask my one question.
Oh, yeah.
I want one of those. I'm willing to donate money to get one.
Okay.
Where do I go and how do I get one?
712 Innovations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Hiller. Matt,
Before
not so
Matt's
quick.
all the way down, I just want to offer some kudos for people who follow Matt on Facebook or who follow artists on Facebook. Matt, speaking of shopping locally, went out and bought a beautiful brand new painting by Stacy Dawn Ogle over First Friday, right? And there are photos of it up on the wall in his house already. I just think that's awesome that you as a leader, but pretty much everybody here are shopping local and supporting our people.
And the name of that painting is The Future is Bright.
Thank you.
Thanks. With that, we move on to our next item.
Item 8, discussion and action, Washburn Tech East Topeka Learning Center project.
Tell us about The Future is Bright.
The future is bright. Sometimes it's a little choppy, but it's bright. Here's a wonderful bright photograph, image of the East Topeka Learning Center project of Washburn Tech East and what it's looking like as of, is that Monday? I mean, it's a very recent picture, so a great shot that we have there. I will refer to your JEDO packet, beginning on page 106. That tells you how long this meeting is, right? The information related to Washburn Tech East. I have a very brief update just to share with you and let you know that we were able to close the New Markets Tax Credits financing on July the 17th, which means that we have that funding and those project sources, the New Markets Tax Credit equity and what the sources are to bring us to a much higher amount for Washburn Tech East. It's an exciting time for that. The other thing that I did want to share with you, and you'll see it in the back of your packet, some of the recruitment information. Washburn Tech has provided that for what they're doing right now to enroll students. And I will ask Lalo Munoz to join me just briefly to be able to share some of the various outreach opportunities that are out there between the Community Advisory Committee that you see that Washburn's convened, as well as the Faith-Based Advisory Committee. And Lala's a representative to just kind of talk about those initiatives and how the East Topeka Council is helping and assisting with getting the word out, getting the students recruited. So, Lala.
Thank you very much. Again, Lalo Munoz. I just wanted to share some of the work that we're doing in the community to try and build support. As a member of the East Topeka Council, we are working to make sure that ourselves, as well as other members in East Topeka, are aware of the progress and the programs that are being offered in the future once it opens up. Recently, we organized a tour of East Topeka, Washburn Tech East, and we invited residents as well as faith leaders to begin to see in real life on the site of it just the sort of progress that's been going on so far, as well as where things are beginning to take shape. We also have other plans in the future soon to be able to bring and broaden the scope of individuals who are able to go to the location and see it as it progresses, with the idea of building champions, individuals who are invested in East Topeka and can see the connection between Washburn Tech East as well as the vibrancy and the future of East Topeka. So we're working on that. In addition, I'm also working together with Washburn Tech to be able to identify opportunities to build awareness in the community. And so recently, Washburn Tech was at Fiesta Mexicana. And if you know what it's like to be at Fiesta Mexicana in the summer, in the middle of July, it is a testament to dedication to the staff of Washburn Tech who were there throughout the week. In addition, they were also at Black Expo, as well as they'll be at the City of Topeka's Clean Slates, as well as working on organizing a community cookout. So a lot of work that's being done in the community to make sure that as many individuals know about this project and about the promise that it holds for East Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalo.
And then the third component of Washburn Tech East of the East Topeka Learning Center project is to talk about the construction update. And I will defer at this time to Councilor Crowell.
Thank you, Barbara. I've included in the materials a memo that's a two-page overview just to give you the basics on the contracts amounts, the pay applications, the change orders. So you will have an overview of what has been spent on the project at this time. Note that there are two contracts. There's one with Champion on the front page, and on the second page there was a separate contract with Train to put in the as specified HVAC system in the facility.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Crowell at this time? Now, Madam Clerk.
8A, action item, Washburn Tech East. Consideration of motion to transfer quarterly payments received by JEDO as leverage lender interest income to Go Topeka to be used for scholarships to attend Washburn Tech East.
Mr. Counselor, before we go into that item, would it be appropriate for us to go into an executive session at this time?
I am recommending an executive session to complete the status update on the construction of the facility.
So before we take up item 8, C, I would make a motion to recess into executive session for consultation with an attorney for the public body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship to discuss the contract with the Champion Builders to renovate the ETLC for a time not to exceed 20 minutes. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, second by Deputy Mayor Jensen. Commissioner Archer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have two questions for the county councilor. Number one, is this absolutely necessary? I don't think JEDO has ever gone into an executive session before. And number two, do you anticipate an announcement coming after the executive session? Because I know Morgan Chilson's here from the Capital Journal, and there may be information that she would like to have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do appreciate that question because this is unique for JEDO. I'm not aware of any other time, not that I've been to every meeting before, but this is a unique project, and I don't think JEDO has undergone a project like this before. During the executive session, we will be discussing proposed action, and I will have recommended action to be taken following the session and publicly to be announced. That action will have the potential for litigation. So there is information that I will be sharing during executive session that I'm going to recommend remain attorney-client privileged at this time. And I also want to have an executive session to encourage a free and open exchange of that information, not only what I'm providing to you, but the questions that you're going to give to me. And I don't want that to be stifled because of fear of that litigation that might be pending.
Mr. Counselor, in the executive session, would it be appropriate for us to have Dean Mazachek, Dr. Mazachek from Washburn University, as well as Matt Bavarnik, Molly, and then also Barbara present, just as our partners within this project?
We can do that. That will weaken the attorney-client privilege on the information that I give you.
Okay. So would it be a recommendation that we start with us and then include them?
I think that would be an appropriate way to proceed, and then when we get closer to discussing the action, maybe bring them in.
Okay. Then again, Councilmember Lesser.
My question. Thank you. My question also is, can we include Dean Farrell in on this conversation from the get-go, or?
Same explanation. I'd like to limit it just to the governing body members at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you state who was going to be in on this executive session? Because I'm really confused now. He said the governing body. He's not part of the governing body. So can you state
Would it be all members of JEDO, whether they're voting or non-voting? All members?
Correct.
Okay.
Does that include our county counselor?
Yeah. As our counselor, he's a...
I would like you to state everybody that would be in there,
okay.
please.
The people that will be present would be Megan Barrett as the secretary, recorder, and Jim Krause, county counselor, Jeff Cohen, Sandra Clear, Sylvia Ortiz, Karen Hiller, Aaron Mays, Robert Archer, Kevin Cook, Mela Della Isla, Shelley Bueller, Michael Padilla, Brenda Jensen, Michael Lesser, and Tony Emerson. Thank you, Tony. Councilwoman.
And can I ask why the secretary needs to be in on this?
County Councilor with the secretary.
She does. It's not absolutely necessary for her to be in on this.
Then I guess then she would be excluded then. Would that be so? All right. Motion made to go into executive session for 20 minutes. It was seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes. We are in executive session. So all members that are not included, please exit.
We're going to take 5.
Peek in.
Yes, please.
Going on.